more progress. So I've got my valve spring compressor from Horrible Freight. It didn't want to hold on to the spring. These outside arms kept popping out of the spring, and it was quite irritating. So put the big vice grip on it to keep this from popping out. So even with that clamped, I was having an issue where the valves are still stuck quite tight into their keepers. Let's see. These things go in there and keep this cover from popping off. Problem is, they were sticking a lot. Tried persuading them with a rubber mallet, and that was not sufficient. So I wound up whacking it with a hammer, a claw hammer. And after a few taps with that, they would pop off. So there's this bottom metal keeper, spring, top keeper, a valve stem seal. I'll just stick right back up in there, and then the valve itself should come out. I'm lining these up behind the head with the valves in order. I don't know how important it is to keep the right intakes with the intakes and the right exhaust with the right exhausts. And to hold the valve up while I'm trying to get the keepers out, I've just got a small block of wood set under the valve. Scrap piece of wood. So, pick that up, and so that doesn't look too awful terrible as far as the valve seat. I've seen worse. Yeah, this one is fairly clean looking. Let's see how close we can get that. There we go. It's pretty. So, nasty, thick carbon crud, but a clean looking valve seat. Yeah. So, I am just kind of popping everything back together, letting it sit with the keepers just kind of sitting there. There. So it's all in one nice little package. I ordered a fuel pump for the Studebaker, and it's the wrong one. This is for a V8, but it uses all the same gaskets as far as I can tell. The entire construction is exactly the same with the exception of that lever, and that little port is upside down. I've already started pulling it apart just to make sure everything was exactly the same. But yeah, if you can see, they match if they're upside down, if the one's upside down. But yeah, that appears to be the difference. The new fuel pump has, as far as gaskets, they look pretty much the same. The new one, this is an actual rubber type material. It has fiber reinforcing in the middle of it. This is pretty much a paper gasket and is brittle. It's anyway, maybe it's a bit more rubbery, but I'm going to use the gaskets out of the V8 fuel pump and rebuild the straight 6 fuel pump. And I just have to figure out how to pull that out. Probably pop that pin out, assuming this comes out, and however it's grabbing this diaphragm, which has a big crack in it. Assume that comes right out. If I'm lucky, the entire assembly inside the base of the new one is a direct swap in. That'd be nice. I'd also like to replace the valves, if possible. Someday I'll remember to pull the camera out before I work. So, it's getting fairly late. I wasn't going to do anything. It snowed today. Can't tell. Pulled the hood off to allow me to lift the engine straight up. I unbolted the engine plate and somebody had a bit of a snack. So, there's the engine. Bought this plate, supposedly universal. Yeah, it's universal after I drilled one of the holes bigger and an extra hole on this side. You can only catch 3 holes with it. Seems to be doing alright. Yeah, nothing's warping, looking nasty. I've got the engine mounts removed. Goal is to lift it straight up and rotate. And see if I can't get it bolted to this engine stand. To aid with rolling on gravel, got one of those plastic floor mats. But, yeah. Do a little bit more work and see how it goes. So I've aired up the tires and pushed the car back. If I'd thought better earlier, I would have had it pulled forward a bit. So there's the engine. I still have to move it a bit. When I let it down, it hit the car again. So I'm going to see if I can't rotate that and get it facing the engine stand. It's the next day, and of course there's a breeze. So I finished taking off the clutch and I guess pressure plate. Figure out how to bolt this thing to the engine stand. It didn't seem to leave the best possible mounting locations. Making some washers to give me some space. There's crap I cobbled together. I actually made a bunch of spacers like these. I suppose out to document this part. It is on its way to the house. And now the hard part. This ought to be fun. And here we are, sprayed down with degreaser. We give it 15 minutes or so, then I can scrub it clean. This is all before I take it through the front door, through the house, all the way to the very back room that I have my workshop set up in. At which point I'll start unbolting and tearing it to pieces. This should be fun. And we are in the workshop. Yeah, I got it clean. That's pretty horrible. Loading bench, drill press, lathe, press, mini mill, wood cutting bandsaw, and storage. Bunch of junk. Made the bench myself. Rather proud. It's super steady. There's a head, cleaned off a little bit. Removed the rest of the valves. Yay. So, now to focus on moving all the little bits and pieces. Started pulling some small stuff off, including the oil pump. I'll have to get the tripod in here to get some additional footage. The engine, those little arms while moving it settled a little bit, so it's at a slight angle when it's supposed to be upright. The stand was wider than the door to get in there, and yeah, that was a Christmas present. Wider than the door, so it took a little bit of sideways action, but yeah, otherwise it's here. Gonna do some cleanup, get all that junk all put away. Alright, I'm gonna take the oil pan off. I can't get the large bolt at the far end off. Need to figure out where I put my impact air gun. Much better. Alright. all of the bolts are out. Now to see if I can just pull it off. Or do I have to do some leveraging? Nope, I can pull it right off. Just check that out. Here, come here. Hey! There's an engine! Oh, but there's a... Can you see that? Here's a bit of sludge in the bottom. Alright, so assuming that's an oil return passage, the oil pickup with its screen. I'm gonna have to do something about light E4, 5, and 6. Everything looks alright. So I've got a socket that fits that, but I lack a proper breaker bar, and I don't want to break anything, so I gotta find my impact gun, which I've never actually used because I prefer hand tools. Coworker asked me or mentioned that I need to get some power tools. I've got some. I don't care to use power tools if I can do something by hand. So I've got the lift plate back on with a thin sliver of wood to keep the piston from going to top dead center. So that will keep the crank from rotating when I impact that nut off, which should allow me to remove this and get at get at the timing cover, get all that taken care of. I'm hoping these bearings look good. I prefer not to replace them, but if they show wear, then obviously things will have to be done. Anyhow, that's going to be it for tonight. It's getting a bit late, and I've got to edit and throw everything together. See you next time.